Can you sing a little tune of that song?
Olvidarte de un amor que no se va a acabar, estar con todo el mundo, na 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 na.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 62 of the Iga and Carlos Tennis Show. As you can see, what we have in our title, Iga Świątek is the Wimbledon champion. And no, that is not an April Fool's joke. That is not any kind of a dream that we're having. It actually happened. Iga actually won Wimbledon. She does actually conquer the grass. This is her first title of the year. It's her first title since 2024 Roland Garros. So, and she does it without dropping a set. She does it with an authoritative win in the final, 6-0, 6-0.
She did drop a set.
Oh, she did lose the first set against Katie McNally. So good correction there. But 35 games lost in total. McNally, of course, being the toughest one. And then, in the final, she goes on to win 6-0, 6-0. She also won the second set against Benjic 6-0. And so she won the last 20 games. And so she dominates and conquers the grass. And yeah, where do we even start with that?
Yeah, we almost had a Wimbledon double at an Iga and Carlos tennis show. We were not ready for that. We expected an Indian Wells. We expected a Roland Garros. There's a couple of other venues, I suppose, where it could happen. But we almost got the double, and the almost part is not because of Świątek. The almost part is, it's not because of Świątek, it's because of Alcaraz. Kind of wild, but, on the previous episode, I suppose we said that Bad Homburg was the perfect warm-up in many ways. We just didn't know how perfect it was going to turn out to be.
Yes, and right away we could see there was a lightness to Iga. I think that was very notable, just psychologically. I think coming in there, obviously with the clay court season, with the stretch that she had. She already had a fairly successful French Open, getting to the semis, and obviously it didn't end very well with the 6-0 third set against Sabalenka. But since then we have seen kind of a pressure valve released. She came in, she was number 8 in the world for about 2 weeks. Obviously, she gets to the finals of Bad Homburg. She got over that disappointment fairly quickly. There was also a training block that they had this year, extended, 2 weeks. They went to Mallorca. And there was just that little bit of time where she could go a little bit under the radar. Not many people were talking about her in terms of, a favorite to win the event. And so I think that certainly played its role in Świątek just feeling a lot more lighter. We certainly saw a much more funnier side of Iga in the post-match interviews, and just the way she was just kind of not assuming the role of having any kind of a pressure like she would as number one, or feeling like it was a relief like sometimes it is when she wins Roland Garros for the third or fourth time, or oftentimes it's been like a little bit of a burden for her, but not the case this time. So I think mentally that really helped, and she was also just laser focused on what she had to do on grass technically, with just how well she was serving throughout the whole week. Just how well, she made. I don't think she made like any of these massive changes. It's not like all of a sudden we're seeing her become Tatiana Maria or anything. Not even close, really. She is still playing very much a topspin game, but we have seen some small adjustments, right? Like we saw her flatten out the forehand quite a bit more. We saw her shorten up her forehand swings at times when she was getting rushed on that wing. We've seen a few more improvisation, slices and stuff. But I think mostly it's the movement. It's just the comfort level, feeling like she can just rely on her athleticism, and she doesn't have to change up her game a ton.
Yeah, obviously she was in a very different position going into this grass season compared to last year, or basically any time since she's been a top player. I'm not saying this is something to take as a lesson for next year's, lose a lot on one surface. That means you're going to do well on the other. But in this particular case, it kind of worked like that. And I think the way she, definitely from what we've seen, the way she approached that Roland Garros semifinal loss, I think she took the best out of this run, out of the match she had against Rybakina, out of the first 2 sets she had against Sabalenka. Didn't dwell on the 20-minute third set, which definitely, in another, there's a scenario where that is kind of what you leave Roland Garros with, and you're thinking, no, I cannot recover from this, and you don't recover from this maybe until next year. There's definitely a scenario like this as well in an alternate reality. But no, I think she took the positive sides of finally starting to fight and not panic. I don't think the Iga that lost to Collins in Rome, for example, would have done this on grass. It was definitely more of that Roland Garros attitude and fight that she showed there. And yeah, in terms of adjustments, I think that definitely she was able to just play very different tennis on grass this year. The way she was dealing with lower balls to her forehand, like both offensively and defensively, I think was pretty excellent. Of course, that already started in Bad Homburg as well, when she played Alexandrova and more power players like this. She was handling so easily this entire Wimbledon. When she had these like opponents who were slicing a lot. So even someone like Towson, Clara wasn't moving that well, so she was defending a lot with these lower slices. And you guys just coming in and hitting that shot. And I remember watching this match. That was actually, I think, the only one that I did a watch along for. And I was like, what am I watching? What is this? Is this Iga Świątek really? What's happening? She's just taking these balls like it's nothing. And the serve, yeah, as well. I mean, even at Roland Garros, even if we said that, the fight was there and that we had a lot of positive signs coming out of Paris, the serving was just a major issue. And then at Wimbledon with the sliders and, yeah, basically the training block that they did, it just took away so many assets for her opposition. When you see Iga playing, I don't know, 3-4 shot rallies all the time, usually that means that she's in trouble. Usually that means that the opponent has forced her own playstyle upon her. And this time it wasn't like that at all. I mean, she could play somebody like Collins, Towson, Anisimova, Samsonova, and the likes. And yeah, just do very well in the 0-4 shot points. And, it's not a problem really. And if she's dropping serve, it's not because the opponent is like crushing her, crushing the returns or something like that. Okay, of course, yeah, she didn't play like Ostapenko or somebody like that, but still played a few power players, and I've never seen the serve hold up so well, and also Iga taking advantage of it. You mentioned as well that she was like, yeah, playing with a lot of joy. I think there was a lot of willingness as well to go to the net to basically like figure stuff out. Obviously, grass is a surface that like makes you invent, makes you improvise. And while she wasn't super comfortable every time she went to the net, she was willing to, and that already makes a major difference too.
Yeah, very good points. I mean, she also mentioned your last point in one of her press conferences that just that the fact that grass doesn't give you a whole lot of time to think, and you do have to play on a lot of improvisation. I think that actually helped her a lot, and so she did kind of just go in with that mindset in those shorter points of just taking control, being the one on top, and feeling like she can boss these rallies around, and then at times not really panic. Against these bigger hitters, against Collins, I was very impressed how she was just like taking the first serve return super aggressive, and obviously she had a lot of confidence on her own serve. So the way she was serving, like with her, I tried to figure out like what was it technically that they did on the serve, and I'd have to go back and like study it more, and I'm not like a super technical expert, but I did see her like toss the ball a lot more out in front, a lot more straighter, a little bit less to her left, lower ball toss, I guess slightly. I did see her like just the miles per hour were definitely up. I think she averaged in the tournament like 178 kilometers per hour on her first serve. So it's about like 110, which it's not like a massive difference from previous years, but it is something, when you can throw the slider out wide at 110 and you can get a free point at 30 all. Like those are the small differences that you need in grass court tennis. And she showed that on big occasions. I thought the second set against Samsonova was really big as well, because Samsonova started to play really well from the back of the court when she went down 4-2. And, that was a match that could have gotten really complicated. She was serving at 5-all, love 30. And there was a world where, she maybe panics a little bit 2-3 months ago, and that goes to a third set. And, the fact that she got that done in straights and made the major semifinal for the first time, and then was able to just let it flow. The last two matches were some of the best tennis I've ever seen Iga play. Like, you could put that up there with some of her finest performances, and it might come out on top. So I was very impressed, really.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk about the final, I'm sure, at least for a minute or two. I don't think that was like one of her finest performances, but what more can you do in a match like this when the opponent is like not there really mentally? But against Benjic, yeah, I thought that was going to be a match where she potentially struggles. She's playing all these power players left and right. She's very used to that play style. We saw what Belinda did to her as well in Wimbledon 2023 when she saved 2 match points to be there, and that was such a great match. All these like low ball redirects, sounds like a recipe for trouble. Jessica Pegula doesn't quite have the same play style, but you can see some similarities in how maybe these balls, basically the ball that they play with, Belinda or Jessica would trouble Iga. And of course, we've just seen Pegula beat her in the Bad Homburg final. And yeah, I was expecting that one to be really difficult, but the way she was accelerating through a lower ball this entire tournament, yeah, she just absolutely crushed Benjic, who I think since has said a lot of things about that semi and just like, that basically she was never really outplayed like this before. That she was just like sitting there and just thinking, yeah, what am I actually supposed to do here? So I think that maybe indeed was one of the best. And I think since the Collins match, basically every single round that Iga was playing, there were just takes coming in about, oh yeah, this is the best I've seen her play on grass. And then there's the next match, and yeah, this is actually the best I've seen her play on grass, and was just improving and improving with every single round.
Yeah, very true. And I mean, I guess also, sometimes for players like Świątek or Rafa, when he was struggling on grass, it's about like surviving the first week. When it's like a little bit tougher and you're more susceptible to the upsets, and the grass plays a little bit slicker and it's harder to move on it. And then as you get closer to the end of the tournament, it starts to harden up a little bit. It gets a little bit more firm in some patches, some browner patches. Also, the weather was hot as well, so I think that definitely helped. I guess when she threw in a kick serve or just the heavy spin that she has, you know, um, at times, the backhand was just so lethal. The way she was just able to limit the unforced errors on that side, but also just be really aggressive with it from the middle of the court. So I mean, just really good tennis all round. I mean, we can talk about the final, and obviously Anisimova was paralyzed by the nerves, but who else on the WTA tour could actually do a 6-love like the way she did? I mean, that's like Iga's aura really that does that to players. So from that standpoint, and for her to not even like give up an inch in that match, I mean, there was just 4 game points that Anisimova had at 2-love, 40-15, and honestly, if she gets a game on the board, we could be talking about a very different match. But aside from that, like the ruthlessness and also the fact that the match point was so good. The match point was the best point they played all match. but yeah, no, really, I get like as an occasion, there's been so many takes about how it's like they made it into a whole equal pay thing about men and women in these majors and best of 5 versus best of 3 and all these debates about how women's tennis is so boring and Iga dominating is so boring and all of this. It's like we were back in 2022 all of a sudden, with those takes. So I was like,
yeah, I mean, it wasn't a great match, definitely not.
Yeah.
I don't really think that it's like the worst showcase for women's tennis or something like that.
People bought so much money.
It.
People paid so much money for these tickets, and it was 57 minutes, and it's like
it happens. I don't think on this particular occasion, if it's a best of 5 sets match, I don't think it actually helps that much. Yeah, I don't think Amanda just was ready on the day. Of course, as you said, she gets one game, maybe she settles down a little bit more, but clearly I think she just needed more experience. It's rare, right, that we see something like that one player has 5 Grand Slam finals to her name, the other has none, and it's like basically the deciding factor of the entire thing. And yeah, double bagel was maybe something that like very much fits Iga and her history. I know that she said before that she actually doesn't like to bagel people, that it just kind of makes her feel, a little sorry for them and everything like that. But yeah, it does feel very fitting that it's her double bageling an opponent in the final, even though I know that was just like, yeah, that wasn't Anisimova actually on the court. I mean, I can't judge her for this effort. She just literally was not ready to take this. But I also think just making this into a whole discussion about women's and men's tennis is ridiculous. This could have happened in men's tennis too. Like, sure, is it a little less likely in best of 5 because back of your head that you have so much time to get into the match? Sure, but this very well could have happened in a men's Grand Slam final too. It's not really something gender specific.
That's a good point. Like I was thinking a little bit about that Cilic Federer occasion when Cilic was just not ready and he just seemed, so physically compromised, and then it was the fact that it was.
But that's physically, right?
Really make a difference.
I guess it's similar though in the sense that the match is like a procession more than anything
like you
else.
know how it's going to end, and it's just like
yes,
you're just waiting for it to get over really. So I think that was that's definitely sad. I mean, there have been Wimbledon finals like this in the past for sure. On the women's side, there have been Grand Slam finals like this. There is that risk, obviously, that comes with it.
Lishitsky, Bouchard, I'm talking just examples from like our era. I know that Steffi Graf defeated Natasha Zvereva in like 32 or 34 minutes, depending on the source. And
Yeah.
that's not a match that I ever watched. I probably saw like a ball or two maybe in highlights. But like, yeah, Bouchard or Lishitsky, they both played amazing tennis on the way to the final, and then they just couldn't compete. They never
Yeah.
actually got to another final, which I hope it's not the same for Amanda, but it could be.
I do have to say the actual tactical game plan that Iga had in the final was quite good too. I mean, she just kept everything on Anisimova's forehand. Like, like 70% of her rally balls were just all the way to Anisimova's forehand, and always forced Anisimova to pull the trigger on something that she didn't have a ball on. Like, she tried to go line on so many shots that just weren't on. And, just exposed her movement in that way. Or sometimes she went very cleverly to the backhand where Anisimova couldn't really hurt her because, once the movement got into it and she was already feeling so nervous, she wasn't making nearly enough first serves. And Iga was just all over it. Like, it was just. And then I guess when you don't get a game, you're just thinking, oh, when am I going to get that first one? When is it? When am I going to get on the board? Please don't lose 6-love, 6-love. I have to imagine those thoughts were creeping into Amanda's mind at probably like 2-0 in the second set or something. It just runs away from you so quickly. So I guess that was difficult to watch from her. Even if you're like a diehard Iga fan, that's certainly something like that's a public humiliation that you just can't even imagine. Wimbledon final losing like that, and with so many all-time greats watching you, and then just I do feel like Wimbledon finals in general just hit differently when it comes to these nerves. Because there's like that moment of silence. It's literally considered like the cathedral of tennis. And there is like the fact that you have like so much royalty, so many famous people watching, and just it's hard for these thoughts to not like creep in. And if you haven't like experienced it before, it can be a bit jarring. I remember even Carlos when he played the first Wimbledon final, he went down 5-love against Novak, and it was like 20 minutes, 15 minutes. It wasn't looking that good. Of course, he turned it around. He had time to turn it around. He's he's a different caliber level of player also. But like, yeah, like it was definitely as sad as it was. We shouldn't lose sight of the fact that I mean, really only Iga can do this.
Yeah, I mean, on the day, Anisimova showed up similarly nervous. I think a lot of players could have beaten her, but double bagel and everything, it feels very fitting. And yeah, it's crazy to think that she won the last 20 games to win
I mean, we have
Grand
seen
Slam.
Iga bagel so many opponents in finals, haven't we? Like,
yeah,
like even Pliskova, Rome, 2021, 6-0, 6-0. Like, Sakura, Indian Wells. Like,
I think that this was a more
comfortably.
impressive performance, this one, than the one against Pliskova. Pliskova was like
Yeah.
not moving at all. I don't know if she was
Yeah.
injured or just didn't care for whatever reason. But I just remember not being too much of a fan. I still enjoyed this Wimbledon final, which maybe I'm just a sadist or something like that. I don't know, but I did enjoy it.
I mean,
I
after a
think
while,
there was
I knew
enough
Anisimova had no
moments for
chance.
Iga to like show her greatness still.
Yeah. I mean, at some point when I knew Anisimova had zero shot, I was just like, please, let's have a double bagel here. This would be so iconic.
Yeah.
It would be so Iga, So
I do think everybody was looking out for this at some point, probably like the moment it's 6-love, 2-love, for example. Yeah, that can she get there? And yeah, she never really like threatened again, I suppose.
yeah, and of course also Amanda had like so many emotional matches on the way to the final. The win over Sabalenka, just the how stressful that ending of the Pavlyuchenkova match was. Obviously the Noshkova match, and even the third round. So yeah, she had all these like emotional wins, and she was pretty much in tears after like two of them, falling to the floor and all that. And I guess at some point also the fatigue and I guess the accumulation of all those emotional wins must have caught up to her in the end. But yeah, certainly from an ego perspective, this run, I've seen a lot of allegations saying like, oh, she didn't face any top 10 players, or it was one of the weaker runs to the slam. But like, I actually don't agree. Like, you can go from McNally all the way to the end, and it's like, yeah, I mean, was it the hardest run? No, absolutely not. But it's not like it was a cakewalk. These are all great grass court players. So
yeah, I think it was definitely hard enough for me not to like care about this topic whatsoever. I also think though that all these people just going at Brad Gilbert over the last 2 days, they're also
yeah,
kind of out of line. Like
I mean,
his
I've
tweet.
seen Brad do this a lot, where he'll just ask a question that I know he can easily Google, and he'll just tag Sharko Tennis in all of
I
them
know,
because
yeah, he just tags Greg every single
yes,
time, and I mean, that was actually a question which I guess you cannot Google that easily. But then again, it's happened so many times in recent years that like I instantly knew, well, it's not that rare actually.
yeah,
But what I'm trying to say is that he also put this question in before the final even began. So he was not,
um,
sort of like people are treating this as if he was trying to say that Iga is that the win just doesn't matter because yeah, it was a cakewalk or something like that. I think he literally like in the mind of Brad Gilbert, he just not woke up. Well, I don't know if he was at Wimbledon. Anyway, he woke up and he looked at the fact that Iga hasn't played the top 10 player and he was like, oh, curious. And he tweeted about it. And
yeah.
like, that's it. I think that's literally what happened.
It's
So
very much
I
like 2010s, how people used to use Twitter. Like they just would just anytime they had a
he is
question or
very old
something,
school with how he uses social
right?
media for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, that was the most Brad Gilbert thing ever. When I saw that tweet, I'm like, I
Yes.
knew he's gonna get crapped on and piled on, but I know this is definitely Brad. Like
I know he
this is the
didn't
guy that
mean
I met. This is the
he
guy
meant,
that I
I
met in
don't think he
Liquid.
meant, it the way that people are trying to make it out like he did.
Yeah,
And then basically every single tweet he put out like after that, people were just tying it to the previous one. I think he's perfectly fine with Iga winning this tournament. He really isn't butthurt because Amanda didn't win it, especially as the tweet was before the final even began. But yeah, to kind of like circle back to this, I think the draw was hard enough for me really not to care about this particular topic.
yeah,
Yeah, a few really difficult grass quarters, different playstyles as well with the Benjic inclusion, for example. Yeah, it's not the strongest run ever. I mean, I kind of wish she played the Sabalenka because we still haven't had a Grand Slam final between them. I don't know how that would have gone. There are also people who are taking this, just the other way, like way too much right now, and are just saying that, oh, if she played top 10 players, she would just crush them anyway because she was so good. Maybe we don't really know
maybe.
that. I still think against Arena the final is so different because Arena
Yeah,
has been there and she doesn't have that kind of you know mental meltdown like
yes,
Amanda did, even if she's lost the last two finals, and that's also clearly hurt her and she was not like fully herself in the Roland Garros one. But yeah, I mean, it's really not that easy, so I don't think this topic is that particularly important.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, I mean, after this, she's now 3/4 of the way to the career slam. With Australia, just like Carlos, really. So we'll see one of them if they're able to do it. Both of them. I mean,
Double
imagine.
career Grand Slam, Australian Open 2026.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, Iga has come closer. She's had a match point this year, on 1 point away from the final. Carlos is yet to make a semi, but I mean, she's now. And then also you look at the number of different big titles that she's won. I mean, she's pretty close to almost. Well, I don't know if she's that close, but she's kind of close to completing tennis in a way, right? Like if she gets Australia and she wins 2, 3 more Masters events
Olympics.
and the Olympics. I mean, yeah. I mean, I just think her winning
Billie
Wimbledon
Jean
just
King
makes her
Cup.
right. I mean, so there are still some things, but if she ends up, if she ends up winning the career slam, or she doesn't, like the narrative just totally flipped in the last 1 month, with this Wimbledon win.
Yeah, I mean, double digits now look very achievable as well in terms of a Grand Slam overall count. She's
Yeah,
won on all three surfaces as well, which I think is massive and so unique in the women's game right now. Yeah, I do think the narratives have definitely flipped so much. I mean, I was thinking before Wimbledon, probably the thought you were going to have in your head is like, okay, is Iga actually ever winning Wimbledon? Because we always used to say she probably has at least one Wimbledon in her. And then, yeah, recently, I mean, it's easy to just kind of fall into this recency bias. And because she's not doing too well this season, you're just sort of start having this long-term thoughts as well, because you never know if that amazing patch that a player was in, if it ever is going to come back, right? I mean, it's just always kind of guessing, I suppose. But yeah, right now it just feels very tempting to say, double digits, very achievable, and yeah, she's basically ahead of the pack again in many respects.
Yeah, I mean, also there was a world where maybe Arena ties her in the slam count or gets close, and now it's a gap of 3. Like that feels pretty big. Also, just given that Arena is number 1 in the points race, she's qualified for Riyadh. She's but she hasn't been winning those big matches at the end of the majors. Her conversion past the semifinals is 3 wins and 9 losses, including semis and finals. So, obviously that conversion has hurt her when it comes to like really having a dominant season. And now Iga is not that far away. She's 1,500 points behind in the race. And so it definitely feels like you could have another, 1 versus 2 battle for year-end number 1, like we've had the last couple of years. And if Iga is healthy or is able to play the Asian swing this time, it could get very interesting when it comes to that race.
Yeah, it could be a fascinating conversation at the end now. Let's imagine that Arena finishes like 3K points ahead, for example, but at the US Open they both lose in the semis. And then who had the better season? And wow, I mean, that would be a discussion.
Yeah, and of course, they flipped a little bit in the sense that like Iga is really caught up in terms of her performance at the majors. At least the first 3 majors, this is the best she's done. I mean, they both won the same number of matches in the majors this year, and Iga has the slam title. And then on the tour, obviously, hasn't been the same kind of dominance in the 1000s or deep runs, but no other titles. But this, I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess also there were times in this 3-4 week stretch where we thought, okay, maybe Wim's job is like quite frankly on the line. And I guess after the Rybakina win, and after a win like this, I mean, now there's no denying that he's. I was looking past his resume, and he has helped people win Wimbledon before. Like he has had success when it comes to Wimbledon champions, and I think this was a goal of his. This was a goal of theirs from the beginning. To try to get better on the faster surfaces, try to get better on grass, specifically.
Yeah, I don't know if Wimbledon was like the main thing, but definitely, yeah, to sort of win something else but Roland Garros. I think
Yeah.
that was kind of the main idea. Yeah, that she was confident she could like keep going in the previous setup, and basically do the same, but to make progress, she wanted something more. And yeah, now it's working out. I think both of us were obviously in like opposition of just not giving Fisset that kind of a chance. After the last few months, we didn't really think that his work was the reason why Iga was struggling or not doing her best. But yeah, right now his job is very safe. I've seen a good quote as well from him about first of all the training block did in Mallorca and the serve improvement, but also the return position. How Iga didn't really want to try it before, but now she does, and he definitely is very happy about that. I think that's one of the main things that he was trying to introduce into her game, and yeah, that is also just paying dividends. So yeah, Fisset is one of the happiest men on tour right now. Definitely, I think this event just changes the perception of him publicly a lot, but also how safe he has to feel in Iga's team. Yeah.
Yeah. And we spoke earlier about her enjoying the process a lot more and just kind of enjoying the just being around at the club, talking to people, just being like more lighthearted and press, more humorous moments. Definitely more of a chance of her to show her personality. And one of those things was strawberry pasta. Which came up, I guess, in the on-court interviews, right? When she was like kind of asked about it, and I guess she brought it up that like strawberry pasta is pasta strawberries, and it was like a little bit of an awkward moment with the interviewer. Like, is that actually a combination? Is that actually a thing? I'd never heard of it before, but obviously it's a common dish in Poland apparently, and it's supposed to be sweet, and it's. I don't know how common it is. Maybe you can tell me. Right?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, to be honest with you, when I heard about it, my reaction was also like, "What?" But then I was like, "Okay, I think have a vague memory of it, but I don't think I was ever." Yeah, I think I tried it for the first time on the day of the Wimbledon final, which I think you did as well.
Yes. I definitely
Should
did,
we?
and let me tell you, like I bought some of the ingredients. I bought strawberries. I bought, I wanted to make sure that I have like, something sweet I can put in it. I wanted to make sure I have the right kind of pasta. So I did, and I was only planning on doing it if she won. If she lost, I wasn't going to do it. So now, when she won, I had so much more time to prepare and go to the store, and because she won so easily, I could actually fit that in. So yeah, it was cool. I decided to make it and then post a
Let's hear
video
the
myself.
review, maybe, right? I mean, we can
So
play this for you
yes,
guys.
yes, I want
In
this.
the audio version, you will only hear it, but I think it's enough. And in the video version, you will also have one of the funniest clips I've ever seen.
Okay, yes. So in honor of Iga Świątek winning Wimbledon, I decided to make strawberries and pasta. And right here is the strawberry yogurt. And I'm gonna give this a shot, guys. All right, here we go. Oh, the suspense is real.
And the fork technique, which was judged on the Talking Tennis group chat.
How is it?
You know what? This is actually really, really good. Like Iga Świątek, 10 out of 10 this year at Wimbledon. If Iga's level on the court was a 10 out of 10, I'd probably give this like a solid 9. I love it. Yeah, I mean, I was very pleasantly surprised. I gotta be honest.
Absolutely phenomenal.
And if you notice my face, I was looking very, very nervous trying it. Like, as soon as I was
I
putting it,
mean,
I was like,
yeah, I can see even the way you're
Yeah.
sitting, you're like, I don't know, it's the
It was
whole
tense,
video. Yeah, if you guys can just watch this, at least this part on our YouTube, because it's brilliant. I loved it when Vanch sent it on the group chat, and I think he also posted it on Twitter. Myself, I didn't record a video, I just had a photo. My version was also a lot more like caveman like. So basically the final was in 30 minutes, and then I'm thinking, oh, it would be funny if I posted a picture on Twitter of me eating this and say something like, I think I said, this better be decent. So it's like a double, metaphor. So for the dish and for the final, for Świątek. And I just basically grabbed the ingredients I had. I don't really like yogurt or cream too much anyway. So I was thinking I'm just going to mash the strawberries and like that's going to be my sauce or thereabouts. So it was a different version for sure. I mean, I didn't hate it. I think it was fine. It's a dish that kind of doesn't know what its identity is to me. Like it's not a dessert. It's not the main course. I don't know what it is. I think people have been saying that it's like a summer dish eaten by kids in Poland. Yeah. I mean, I can imagine that. As I said, I think I have a vague memory of it, but is it just, I don't know, seeing somebody else eat it? Is it me actually eating it? I don't know. But I was at least aware of a combination like this. Iga, though, seemed like she's like, oh yeah, people eat it all the time in Poland. That I don't know. Not where I live, at least.
Yeah, and she also posted a picture of it on her Instagram story or something on social media the day of. And yeah, at that point, I kind of was like, this does not look good. I was very, very skeptical. I thought it was not going to taste good. I honestly also thought I put way too much yogurt in it, and I didn't fully trust my cooking abilities in terms of improvising the
From
recipe.
the video, it seemed like you didn't put that much, to be honest. So yeah, I think it was fine.
Yeah, and then I sort of had like a strawberry smoothie to drink afterwards. So I kind of had the smoothie, which I guess was the yogurt and the sauce, and I had fresh strawberries, and I had the pasta. So, and
it was a brilliant meme overall, like this strawberry pasta experience. Iga saying that the outrage. Yeah, I mean, even the posts we did, I know that they also got some reactions that were like, what is this? What are you doing? I think the entire thing just kind of became like a trend, and it's brilliant. I mean, next year we're definitely going to hear about strawberry and pasta again during Wimbledon too, and I probably won't be eating it, I don't think, but I tried it and I'm still alive. I'm fine. There's this Polish pasta brand as well, Lubella, which is going to make the rocket-shaped pasta in honor of Świątek's Wimbledon win, which is pretty crazy. I'm thinking I will probably buy it and also just like post it on Twitter or something like that. Buy a pack. I mean, obviously it's just pasta. It doesn't matter too much which shape it's in. I mean, sure, it matters how it like gets the sauce, right? But the taste is pretty much the same. So it's only going to be like a bit of a cash grab for the company, I suppose. But it shows you how much of an impact, Iga winning Wimbledon has in Poland as well. And I think that does kind of bodes to like that is due to the tradition of Wimbledon just being a little stronger than the other slams. Like it just resonates with casual fans a lot more than the other ones. So I think it is a bigger thing that Iga won Wimbledon than the other 5 titles that she has. And that's kind of what you said about Anisimova also being maybe a little bit more overwhelmed by the occasion at Wimbledon than she would have been at the other slams.
Yeah, Wimbledon, I've heard many historians describe as like the preeminent event in the sport. Like there's just nothing that comes close to that in terms of, especially, like you said, casual fans and just worldwide recognition, I guess, on the international stage. It's pretty big, Wimbledon. I think it just has that aura that the other slams, don't. I guess for specific players, some slams are more significant than others, but Wimbledon is most people's dream to win when they're pretty young, and to have that experience, just even playing on center court once, is like such a dream for so many of these players. So
I don't think we even get stories like Novotna or Ivanisevic at the other slams either. Players who have come close a few times, and like if they won another one, it wouldn't be the same. Usually when players come close a few times, like they don't mind if it's the US Open or if it's the French, they win. So yeah, I think Wimbledon does kind of like hit different in that sense. And that's why I would also not let go of the all white clothing, because I think it builds that like brand, that recognition for a casual fan, especially. Casual fan, when thinking of Wimbledon, he knows that everybody is in all white.
Yeah. And yeah, I guess she also wins the 7 years after winning the junior title. Well, actually, that's back-to-back slams where the Coco has won 2018 RG, and then she wins the senior event here. And then
Iga was in the semis at RG, lost to Katie McNally, but
The
won the
match point
doubles
up,
with
right?
Katie McNally, and now played Katie McNally in the seniors slam. Well,
Yeah.
pros, whatever.
That Katie McNally win aged well as well, because now she's won Newport, and she beat Tatiana Maria in the final from a set down.
I mean, she
Maria
definitely
beat-
has a grass court skill set, But yeah, throughout that entire match, even though Iga lost the opening set, I feel like she was like always in control of the points. It was really all about like her rhythm getting better, and after that, she never really looked in doubt anymore throughout the tournament.
It was like that match that she played against. Was that against Maria in Bad Homburg in 23? Reminded me of that, where it was like, yeah, she loses the first set, but she was on top the whole time, and then she just races through the next two. Yeah, I think it might have been against Maria. Similar.
It was, yeah. It was, yeah.
So, but yeah, no, definitely like a legacy-defining win for Iga, and we were kind of hoping that we would get Iga and Carlos both going 6-0 in major finals. Of course, didn't quite happen for Carlos, and for the first time he loses a slam final. For the first time since 2023, he loses to his biggest rival, and this was what I found interesting coming into the match on this one is, I felt like the odds changed like 2 days before, like after the semifinals finished. I think most people had Alcaraz as a slight favorite. Like I think the bookies, I think most kind of people were kind of assuming that like, all right, it goes to a fifth set, like it's going to be really difficult. Yannick certainly has, they were remembering the match 3 years ago, but not so much about that. More so just where the strengths and weaknesses kind of would help Yannick on a faster court like this, etc. Like there were definitely some people in that camp, but I feel like a lot of people also flipped from like Alcaraz winning in 5 to maybe Sinner being able to do it in 4. And I think that was the case for the IBM, like the AI, whatever, Wimbledon AI likelihood thing, where it was 54% for Alcaraz, and then it was 46 like a day later. So I guess something changed in their algorithm. But whatever it was, this performance from Sinner was definitely quite scary good, I must say, after losing the first set. And obviously Alcaraz, we can get into the match a little bit, set by set, but yeah, for the first time he was really outplayed.
Yeah, I think from Carlos's perspective, definitely you can point to him being just a little unfocused most of the match as well. Just kind of, there, but not fully there. And he said before that against Yannick, he just cannot afford to do that. Like against most players, he probably can get away with it. And he was getting away with it this Wimbledon as well. And then against Yannick, it's just going to be punished. And it very quickly was from the start of the second set. Yeah, I think obviously Yannick just started playing like so much like first strike tennis, both on serve and return after set one. That was just going to take a pretty ridiculous effort from Alcaraz to get that, sorted out, to get back into it. And he never really looked like showing it, even when he had these chances in the fourth set. And of course, right now when we're watching a Sinner Alcaraz match and when Sinner has a lead, we never actually think it's done, right? We just always think, okay, Carlos he probably has a chance. And he had. I mean, in the fourth set, he had the 2 break points. And I don't think Yannick did anything special on either of these 2 points. Carlos just kind of felt like a player who is, under pressure all the time. And then when he actually has an opportunity to strike, he's just not in the rhythm to, because most of the match he cannot like use his forehand as a weapon. Most of the match he's literally just on the back foot. The in attack or whatever it's called, the stats that we also have, the percentages for Yannick were just through the roof from set 2 onwards. And I think I said it on Twitter after the first set that like Yannick really has to start relying on that first strike more, because otherwise it's just, longer exchanges where the creativity, the better movements, the more fluid footwork of Alcaraz is going to be better. And I didn't even expect it to stand the test of time this well. But yeah, Yannick just like turned it on completely in the next 2 sets in terms of the first strike velocity. And that's what he did at Wimbledon 3 years ago as well. And clearly that path to the victory was still possible for him right now.
Yeah, it just felt like we were back to Alcaraz getting rushed again. And,
Yeah.
Especially on the second serve return. And it's really the serve and return for me. That's where, the match was won and lost, right? That's where you have that really high in attack percentage. That's where you have Yannick winning a lot of those bang bang type of rallies, with Alcaraz not quite being able to. I mean, I also thought Alcaraz's touch was quite off in this match. Every time he did, go to the drop shot, it didn't work that well for him. You had Sinner coming to the net 40 times in this match, winning 30 of those points, and Alcaraz was, I think, like just a little less than half that amount at the net. So just kind of shows you like who was in control most of the time. And yeah, I mean there was a whole almost 3 sets where Alcaraz couldn't get to break point on Sinner's serve. I think some of it was poor returning from Alcaraz's standpoint on second serve returns, and then his own first serve percentage was quite low. And for Sinner, he had to be above his first serve percentage in those other matches. Like the last 4 matches, he hasn't hit 60% Sinner in his first serves in on many big occasions. And in this match, he was at 67% in the second set, 68% in the third set. So at some point, he got pretty hot on his first serve, and he was winning a lot of those points behind it. But Alcaraz wasn't quite able to. Yeah, he just wasn't able to bring that creativity in. And I guess that's what you always felt like he had a little bit of a chance towards the end of the fourth, that 4-3 game. Yeah, at 15-40, Alcaraz, there was a second serve return that he probably should have made. I mean, it was a 111 mile per hour Sinner serve. I believe it was like a slider to the forehand, but it was a shot that Alcaraz, he was there, like he should have made it. He didn't make it, missed it, and then on the next point it was a forehand unforced error long, and then that was really the only chance he would get to break back. And then if you look at the breaks that he, if you look at the times he lost his serve in the third and fourth, there were those big 30 all points where each of the times, he's hitting second serves and Sinner is taking control of the point with his backhand, or just finishing it off in under 4 shots, or, predictable locations, or like the kick serve wasn't working as well. And like there was just so much pressure on Alcaraz to keep that serve variety going the whole time. And I just never feel like he served as well as he needed to the whole match. Even in the first set, his serve wasn't there. I mean, the game that he got broken at 2-all, missed 5 out of 8 first serves. So, and Sinner was able to apply a lot of pressure on the second serve return. In a way, he was able to do that in Roland Garros as well. But Alcaraz had time to turn that match around. He had time in the rallies. He could use his weight of shot. He could use the higher loopier balls. It's harder to do that on grass. It's harder for him to get that slice into play. It's harder to just turn points around with your defense in general. So I just felt like that was a big edge that Sinner somehow had in this match, I guess, with when they finally played on faster conditions.
It's been a while, yeah, since they played on something like this. We obviously didn't know how much the Wimbledon 2022 match is going to be at all relevant, but it actually kind of was, yeah. So many of these, let's say, mid-court sitters that Alcaraz is going to, well, basically give Sinner, or I don't know, after a great return from Yannick that is at Carlos's feet.
Yeah.
On clay, probably the point continues. On grass, it's done. And Yannick was willing as well to venture forward. I think in the second set, he had a lot of mishaps at first in terms of the execution, but later on, he actually was hitting some brilliant touch volleys as well. So yeah, to me, it was still more about like he knows he has to keep going. He knows he has to keep trying. Doesn't matter what the outcome is of like a singular point at the net. He knows that this is the way, and like this is how he kept playing. Absolutely. Yeah, I guess the serving was still probably the improved version of what we've seen generally from Alcaraz. Yeah, but on
But
this occasion, just
53% first serves in for the whole match is not really going to get it done. I know he had 15 aces, but
it depends, yeah, what you're going for. Definitely, there were parts of the match where I was not really confident on the Alcaraz serve bailing him out of anything. It was like, yeah, he's probably just gonna miss that, or the targets he was going for were really small. And like, okay, yeah, when he landed it, sure, most of the time it brought him the point. But
right.
Yannick also is, of course, a spectacular returner of first serves. I mean, especially later on in that match, I think yeah, he just like jumps into a forehand return and it lands directly on the baseline, and it instantly just sets him up with another opportunity to kill the point right away. I think Fritz was also returning like this a lot in the fourth set tiebreak against Carlos, and he just wasn't able to convert these points. He had these mid-court aggressive forehands and just wasn't precise enough on the approach. Yannick just made sure that he was a little bit better at that. And yeah, I do think that Sinner, even if there were some opportunities that he missed, or maybe volleys that he could have done better, he knew that this is the way after the first set. He knew that that he has to play that kind of tennis to basically knock the racket out of Alcaraz's hands and try to make it Wimbledon 2022. And he pretty much did. We just had a bit of an we had an opportunity to travel back in time to their match 3 years ago in many ways.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that similar, just because in that one it was just way too one-sided for most of it, where it just didn't feel like there was any chance because Carlos was, yeah, he wasn't moving anywhere near Yannick was. Whereas now they're comparable in terms of their grass movement, and there's more, you know, there was
Okay,
still
but today, I
easier.
mean, it also for a
Yeah.
long time felt like there's not too much of a chance, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, like the thing is, the first set, 4-2, Sinner goes up, and then Alcaraz, he finds his range on the forehand, and he starts making stuff happen. It seems like, okay, Sinner is maybe feeling it a little bit in terms of just the importance of that first set, and then he manages to get that set. But then the issue is, then Alcaraz has that really big dip. He plays a horrible first game. And first game of the second set, he just gives away double fault, two horrible forehand errors, and it was like, just here you go, Yannick, take it on a plate. And then, he did have a chance to break back, but then Sinner just comes up with a 134-mile-per-hour serve out wide. And then it's just like the rest of the set. I mean, sure, there was that one long game in the fourth game, I think, at 2-1 when Sinner was trying to consolidate for 3-1. But really, aside from that, from then on till the rest of the match, I mean, Sinner was just so clinical on the serve, and there was not that many chances for Carlos. I didn't expect it to play out like that, in a way where, yeah, there just weren't that many break chances for Carlos, or he wasn't getting to break points, and he wasn't being able to, like it didn't. It felt like the match was running away, where it wasn't like that in other occasions where Carlos has managed to come back and he's found that second wind, and yeah, just wasn't allowed to today. I just feel like, and also the body language. At some point, at the start of the fourth, you could just tell it wasn't going to happen. Like, I don't think Carlos was resigned or anything. He still believed somewhere deep in the back of his mind that maybe there was a chance, but it just didn't really come about. Sinner was
yeah,
not going to.
Sinner played like the guy who defeated Alcaraz 5 times in a row, not the other way around, in terms
Yeah.
of his mental performance today. And Carlos just looked very, I don't know, just unfocused the entire time, just couldn't really like get himself together. Which, every streak has to come to an end. We don't know how this match looks if Roland Garros actually ends with Sinner claiming that's one of the 3 match points. Maybe today it's then like the opposite situation. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, to me, I don't think his performance was like, for example, the fact that he wasn't creating breakpoints. I think in a lot of games this was also on him. Like, again, there was a lot of makeable second serve returns that he is going to miss. And yeah, just the overall kind of lack of, I don't know if belief, but confidence at least in his game, and just the inability to, let's say, if there's an important 15-all point, you never really had the confidence that, okay, this is now where Carlos like isn't going to miss and he's just going to bring something up. Typically, yeah, he just kind of messed something up right after, and then the game runs away because from 30-15 Sinner then hits 2 unreturnable serves. And yeah, I don't think it was the most perfect performance at all from him, and I do think mentally he was far from where he should be to try to compete against Sinner on a day like this. But also Yannick obviously used the sort of like, well, we can look at grass both ways, right, in this matchup. I think we mentioned it as well in the previous episode, that you don't really know, like, if they battle each other right now on grass, there are things that Carlos can take from the surface that are playing to his assets, and there are things that Yannick can. And with Yannick, it's definitely like this first strike tennis being even more dangerous, even more damaging. And Yannick was able to use the assets or like the characteristics of grass court much better, and like, yeah, just make them work for him, whereas Carlos just wasn't really able to take advantage of his. You mentioned the touch, but again, the opportunities to do anything about it, like to try to go for a drop shot, are going to be scarce when your opponent is attacking 40% of the points.
Yeah, and I talked about also how, like, on the serve, Yannick was getting that help in those really big spots that he wasn't getting on those slower surfaces. Like, you can point to that third set, for example, which is pretty crucial. They both split 6-4 sets. It's 3-4, 30 all. Yannick misses the first serve, but then he comes up with like 117 mile per hour slider out wide as an ace, and it's like, wow, like, that was a clutch moment, because suppose they get into a rally and then maybe it's an extended one, maybe Alcaraz has a break chance there. Like, it could have played out very differently, and then next point it's another ace from Sinner. It's just like there were so many of these erasers that Yannick would keep coming up with on these big 30 all deuce points.
That is actually the moment Alcaraz could have won the match, right? That 3-4 30 all.
Yeah, because then
But
in
if
the
he
next
wins
game,
it's probably because of a Sinner double fault rather than him doing something on that point, I suppose.
yeah, maybe. I mean, because he wasn't having a ton of success on those second serve points. It was like, I think that was the lopsided part of it, is that in the third, that was Yannick's best serving. He hit like 7 aces. He was 68% first serves in. He was winning more than half of his second serve points. It was like very much going his way. So I'm not sure what would have happened had he not hit that ace, but you never know. It's Alcaraz. He can just come up with something special. But like, it's 4 all, 30 all on Alcaraz to serve in the next game, and it's a second serve, and it's like 1 or 2 miles per hour, like central, middle of the box. And Yannick just has all day. Like, he just has all day to step in, inside in, backhand return, boom, forehand into the open court. And it's like just that combo. It's like that those deadly combos that are just bang, bang, bang in 4 shots off the serve and the return. Like, that's what used to happen before 2023 Beijing in their matches sometimes. Also, you used to have like Alcaraz getting to a lot of break chances and then not being able to convert, and he had these like yips on these big break points. But it wasn't really happening. I mean, Alcaraz wasn't even getting to break points in a lot of these Sinner service games, and then at 4 all, 30 all, Yannick does, and the first chance he gets, Alcaraz misses another first serve, and it's like Alcaraz's first serve percentage in the third set was 43%. 43% is very, very, very low for him to win a match like this. Like, it just wasn't going to get it done. 30-40, another second serve. And this is when Alcaraz slipped. He slipped in that forehand corner, and he was trying to get the ball back, and then Yannick has that open volley. But right there, you kind of knew that, yeah, if this keeps on continuing, it's going to be hard for Alcaraz to make that comeback on grass versus
Yeah,
clay.
that third set as a whole is a moment I didn't really remember to mention, but yeah, 3-4, 30 all, that maybe could have been the moment that Alcaraz wins the match if he breaks there. But
Yeah.
also the entire set, he just looked so fragile. I mean, I just remember watching the first 6 games and thinking, oh my, I mean, he's lucky to be at 3 all here, man. It's just, he's lucky to be at 4 all. It just
Yeah, because he
doesn't
was
feel
having a harder
close at the
time.
moment.
He was having a harder time holding, but he did hold from the first game from 15-40, and he was getting some free points on the
I'm
first
not
serve.
even talking about the score lines. Just when you look at them, the body language and everything, and you can just see that he's not confident at all. Anytime he gets an opportunity to crack a forehand or do something creative, it's going to be a bit of a mess. And Yannick is just himself, very efficient, kind of robotic as well, but just executing so at such a high standard that I just remember thinking 3 all. I mean, it's lucky that Alcaraz is even at 3 all right now, because it really could have gone so differently. And yeah, I guess there was that one second surveys that really decided a lot of that set there. But again, that's only because we later had the return to Alcaraz looking vulnerable and Sinner not.
Yeah, in some ways, this reminded me a little bit of the Djokovic match in Australia. He wins that first set. Of course, there wasn't like that injury component, but it was more of like the same thing where like the second serve was getting attacked. The backhand down the line was a good option for Djokovic to kind of get his way on offense early in points, especially because Djokovic was hurt, so he knew he had to be the proactive one and get Alcaraz on the back foot early on in the rallies. And but
I
yeah,
compared it
then it
to
played out
I compared
differently.
it to this match when talking to somebody like an hour ago or something like that, and mostly for the reason that I think in both matches Carlos had similar issues on his forehand side. So like he didn't really get to play too much forehand offense. So when he had these opportunities, he just wasn't in the rhythm to do it.
Yeah, and this is so I thought that was a little bit of a reversion, unfortunately. But then and then I mentioned already the two points that he has in the fourth. But then also it's worth talking about that game that he actually did get broken, because at 1 all, 30 all, it's the same kind of thing. Second serves, and Sinner is just so good at attacking them. And then you have that backhand down the line winner where he kind of wrong foots Carlos. And
Was that the
it
game when
was
15-30 he hit an unreturned serve on the line?
yes. And then
Yeah, I remember watching that, and that was one of the moments where I was like, yeah, sure, he hit this one, but like it all feels so low margin.
and if you remember in the break point, it was super predictable. He just served a
Yeah,
100 mile per hour kicker that just set up
not
for
to
Yannick.
miss. Basically, he served not to miss.
Yeah, and because he was, I felt like the difference between the Fritz match and this one is that Alcaraz was taking risks on the second serves against Fritz. He was jamming him. He was hitting more body serves. He was upping his profile, and it was just that kind of match. It was very just serve, 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 serve. There weren't, it was from Alcaraz's standpoint that was kind of a boring match until the fourth set tiebreak, the Fritz Alcaraz one. But against Yannick is just such a good quality returner that Alcaraz felt the pressure. He didn't want to double fault on a lot of these big points, and so he just decided to spin it in, decided to play it safe, and he kind of paid the price sometimes because the variation wasn't quite there. And when Alcaraz is not thinking clearly, then he'll just make serves, and then all of a sudden he'll look a little bit passive on a faster court because he's not really, yeah, he's just not really fully there. Like you mentioned the focus. I definitely think this is a match where it did cost him. Like it did. There were a few lapses here where, yeah, that very much affects it. I mean, he put a lot of emphasis on the serve. Overall, it improved quite a lot. I'm curious to see if it continues that way in hard courts. I'm curious to see if I also believe that we won't get like the hangover that we got in 2023 and 2024, because those were such brutal sort of one-off type losses when it comes to him putting 150%, him having real chances to win and not getting it done. This one I think is much more simple in his mind about what went wrong in the serve and return, and Yannick just having a really good day and converting the championship points. And I think he'll be able to put this one, you know, in perspective a lot quicker and move on from it and actually have a much better, more consistent second half of the year.
I think so, yeah. Even from what he was saying on the court to his team, he said something like, "The guy is playing so much better than me," or something like that.
And we know that 5 in a row is not really reflective of how the rivalry has gone. Like,
No.
it's not really. It doesn't feel like Alcaraz has ever dominated him. It doesn't feel like Sinner has a matchup issue against Carlos. It's
not in the slightest. It could have built up. Like, let's imagine Yannick loses from 2 match points up today. Then sure, yeah, I mean, something mental definitely will be there, you know. But yeah, I mean, this rivalry was never really that easy. Even if Alcaraz was winning all these matches, he was winning them by the skin of the teeth, right? So yeah.
So to expect him to do that twice is very unrealistic. Like, to expect him to again come back from the brink deep in the fourth and get it to a fifth and do it. You know, there
If
was
it
a chance
happens
there.
again, that's when you start thinking, okay, so maybe Yannick is just not gonna beat Alcaraz for the next 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess it's big, I guess, for Sinner, because now he's, now he also has a real shot. We were talking about Iga getting close to number one. Like, it's the same kind of thing between Carlos and Yannick when it comes to the points race, like 1,500 points behind. And then you get to their favorite part of the year where, Sinner, Cincinnati, US Open, Shanghai, like all those other tournaments, second half of the year, where he's going to feel really comfortable and confident. And I guess in a way, it's going to be good for Carlos to have a defeat like this, to kind of refocus himself. I feel like his goal should be not to lose to other players outside of Yannick. I think that should be the goal, because I do feel like these guys are so far ahead of the rest of the field right now, where there is no third guy. We can talk about Novak in the slams, but aside from that, there's nobody. There's nobody who is like clear-cut number 3 right now.
Yeah, I've stated this before, but a lot of players, I think, this year have to be treating the tournaments as like, I have to get to Yannick or Carlos, and then we'll see. And it kind of works like this, the other way for the two guys. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to lose to anybody but Yannick. I don't want to lose to anybody but Carlos. I think it makes sense.
But
We've
we
said a
know
lot
that
of
it's
things.
easier for Yannick. It's easier for Yannick not to lose to other players.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
Exactly,
that's something that Carlos has to work on, and Yannick kind of has that fixed, even if he lost to Bublik in Halle. But we said a lot of things about this being very acceptable as a loss for Carlos. Do you think it's like the same for his fans, really? I mean, he got Roland Garros. I guess it's easier to take it. Right?
You can look at it that way, I guess. Or you can also look at it like, if it was that hard. I guess maybe
But
now.
I'm kind of thinking about it through my own personal experience, because at Roland Garros, I'm not like the biggest Carlos Alcaraz fan in the world or something like that. But of the top players, I think he's definitely my favorite to watch.
Yes.
And then at Roland Garros, I was just sitting, in my, I was at my parents' house, and I was sitting in the living room with my dad, and I was, vamosing and everything. I was really feeling it, I was really pumped. And today, I just, I mean, I was watching it, and I was thinking,
you're right. Like, I was much more resigned to the outcome of this one.
Yeah.
Compared to RG, because I just felt like if he loses at RG, that just means, like, I mean, that was a legacy defining thing, where it would have been 4-4. It would have been 3 in a row for Yannick. He would have had a really good chance at a career slam, and 4 in a row. Like, the stakes were higher at RG. I do believe that, And I guess
I was surprised by how neutral I was today. I was like watching it and thinking, yeah, Yannick has made the better adjustments. Yannick is calmer on the court. He should win this. Sure.
And also, like, I guess from a neutral perspective, you want the rivalry to go back and forth. You want there to be some,
yes,
both players make adjustments. Both players are now one slam. Like, now that's so cool for the sport, that you have 3 guys in Iga, Carlos, and Yannick, who are one slam away from doing the career slam. And Iga and Carlos have a chance in Australia, and then Yannick has a chance in RG. And it's like, who's going to get it first? Like, I think that's a cool storyline going into the next couple of slams and going into next year, like, as a neutral. And so I guess, yeah, I think most of the Carlos fans would feel like, okay, we got RG. We have a little bit of a cushion in the head-to-head. We still have a great record in the big finals. Like, it's not like we had serious chances of winning today. Like, there wasn't really, apart from that moment in the fourth set, and apart from that loose game in the first, there wasn't really, like, you knew that this level overall was just too good from Sinner today, or Carlos wasn't clinical enough to give himself more chances. Both of those things are true. So I guess it's more easier to rationalize it. It's more easier to cope with the defeat if you're a Carlos fan, I think, for this one. I think that's definitely true.
Yeah, that's how it seems to me as well. But of course, maybe you guys feel otherwise. Feel free to tell us if so.
But I think they're going to want to see more in the second half of the year. Like, if we get a second half like we did last year and the year before, that's not good enough.
Yes.
And especially with Sinner having 3 months off, you want to be able, because the standard is Sinner. It's not about being number 2. The standard is Yannick. That's the ultimate goal. He's the model of consistency week in and week out. He's the one you're chasing. So in some ways, that's what makes it really intriguing. It's for Sinner, how do I win the final point against Carlos? And for Carlos, how do I avoid losing to players not named Yannick? I think.
I mean, last year was US Open second round Cincinnati opening match, right? So,
so
last
it
year
can
maybe
get
it's a
worse.
very harsh example, but yeah, I agree. Like the last few years, I mean, you obviously naturally want Carlos to improve on that, be it the North American hardcourt swing or even the indoor swing at the end of the year.
Yeah, 100%. But so, and then also the thing is, like, at some point, like, you win 24 matches in a row, or like you said, all streaks come to an end. The fact that he was going 5 with Fabio Fognini, the fact that he dropped 4 other sets en route, like, you knew it was going to take a serious level race. The fact that Fritz almost got it to a 5th, and it was basically on his racket, like, it was going to take a spectacular performance today. It was going to take.
But we're used to that, right? I mean, I saw this funny comment from somebody the other day on Twitter. It wasn't to me. It was asking a Carlos Alcaraz fan. So like, so hey, you're a Carlos Alcaraz fan. So have you ever seen him play 60, 70% for the entire tournament and then like really turn it on for the final? And I'm just reading this and thinking, this is Carlos's every tournament. What are you talking about? Did you watch Roland Garros? So
Yeah.
we've seen that before from him, right?
Yes, true. But we've also seen the ups and downs in the finals, and then he just locks down when it's most needed. We've seen both. Like, we've seen just a masterclass in the final, and then we've seen like the ups and downs, and then boom, like that turbo boost. And maybe we could have got that turbo boost if he breaks for 4 all today. Maybe, maybe it then goes to a 5th. I just don't think the match was very physical as well, so I don't think that physicality would have really come into it. The rallies that they were having, like, I mean, this match was 3 hours, so it's not like
yeah,
you
this
would
would have been 5 sets, and Yannick still wouldn't have gotten that 4-hour mark.
Yeah,
curse.
I mean,
Yeah,
it was one of those matches. Like, they weren't having too many of these. I'd be curious to see actually what was the rally length statistics, like 4+ and 9+ shots. I wonder if Carlos actually had an edge in the longer rallies. I don't know if that was the case or if they were even.
I doubt if he had an edge. I doubt it would have been high.
It just wasn't coming in to it that much because of the pace at which Sinner was playing off the ground and on the serve and the return. And yeah, I mean,
yeah, I don't think Wimbledon has that on their website, do they?
no, I was trying to find it. I couldn't find the rally length breakdown. That's why I wanted.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't think it exists. Yeah.
It's definitely not like a De Minaur and Djokovic situation where like De Minaur just dominated in the longer rallies, and then Djokovic was just so good in the serve and return that it didn't end up mattering. It's obviously not going to be like that. I'd imagine it would have been close, but maybe Alcaraz had a slight edge, but this is grass, not clay. So
if there are 20 rallies like that during the entire match, even if you win 75% of them, it barely matters sometimes. So
yeah, I mean, there was also some times that I felt like Sinner today was trying to be more unpredictable. He was going to the drop shot a little bit more on the forehand.
Yeah.
He was, and it did work sometimes. He definitely won a few more of those points. Did it ever look like that was his natural game plan or what he was looking to do? Probably no. It was just more. It wasn't as instinctual for him, but it's clearly something he's worked on. So, I guess yeah. He was also just very hungry, very motivated after Paris. He also got a second wind really from the whole Dimitrov situation, which I guess is going to be one of the bigger what ifs in Grand Slam tennis history. Really, if they end up, I guess really close in the slam count later on in their career. I think people will point to that, the 4th round against Dimitrov, where Dimitrov's pec gave out on him. Obviously, nothing Sinner could do in this situation, really. And you also do wonder how much of the performance in the first 2 sets was the elbow actually bothering him now, rather than Grigor. I mean, Grigor obviously was playing phenomenally well, and then you would just don't know if he would have been able to win 3 sets if from 2-all in the third. We just never know. We'll have to live with that unknown.
Yeah, it's pretty unprecedented. I think last year we did an episode for another show, of course, about like the singular points that's changed Rafa Nadal's career or something like that, or the ones that got away from him in a more so like the points that could have meant that he would have won more. So like whether he would have won Miami, which he never did, or just singular slams. And yeah, this is the kind of moment that in about 10-15 years we might be coming back to with Yannick, that this was kind of what changed tennis history, because every single slam, especially if you have a bit of a race, which you now do at least between Sinner and Alcaraz, when you have that, I mean, someone winning a slam is kind of like winning by 2, right? Because the other is also losing that slam.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could be one of these massive points that literally changed tennis history, and I think it's going to be a very much a legendary story, because anytime we get something relatively close to that, it's going to be mentioned that, oh, in 2025, Dimitrov was 2 sets up on number 1 Sinner. It's kind of like that Graf Zvereva match, and now also Świątek and Isimova. That every tennis fan has heard of this before. That Graf defeated Zvereva double bagel in the final.
But people don't remember that she beat Navratilova in the 4th round.
Nobody cares. I mean, I never knew who she defeated.
Right, exactly. And so that's unfortunately going to be the case for Amanda if she doesn't go on to win a slam or something. I mean, Zvereva also had unbelievable success in doubles. So no one really ever mentions that. She won the 18 doubles titles and majors. And
she remained pretty solid. I think she made like 1 more semi and maybe 8 or 9 quarterfinals at the slams. Just yeah. She's
I mean,
basically remembered by people who never watched her play, including ourselves. She's only really remembered for getting double bagels.
Okay, yeah. I guess there are also a couple more things on my mind, which is that you can mention the Dimitrov one, but then if you're a Carlos Alcaraz fan, you're like still in awe of how Carlos managed to win US Open 2022 from match point down. He's managed to win 2024 Roland Garros from 2-1 down, and then he managed to win, the epic RG final from basically looking like he might lose the 3rd, 4th, and 5th. So,
even more points, that in like 15 years, somebody else, or maybe we will record something on and say, oh, these are the ones that changed, the history of that player's career.
And then if their head-to-head is super close, then you might even point to the Beijing, escape in the tiebreak and stuff. So I just, I just feel like these matches are going to ride on these big moments, and maybe when Sinner wins, maybe it'll be 4 sets, or maybe it'll be come from behind from a set down and a best of 3. Like maybe he will just have those less dramatic wins, and maybe his wins will look a little bit more business-like, more kind of clear cut, and Alcaraz might have to do it the hard way. But that's in a way how they are as players. That is in a way their identity. It is a little bit of what drives Alcaraz also to be the player that he is. But
the standard is so high between them right now.
Yeah.
The US Open 2022 and also now this Roland Garros match that we've just had. It's going to be very hard to top. I think that they will come close though, but obviously not every single match is going to be as good, and people just have to be ready for that. That not every single Alcaraz Sinner is going to turn out like Roland Garros. It's just not possible.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Of the 3 players left who are 1 major away from doing the career slam, who do you think will get it first? You have Iga, and you have Carlos, and you have Yannick. Tough to say, but
Carlos is probably the favorite percentage-wise.
I mean, he does have a chance.
A lot more even on the WTA.
And then I suppose Yannick is maybe.
I mean, Roland Garros just happens later after Australia,
Yeah, but who do you think is closer at winning the slam that they haven't won? I guess
pretty close. I mean, I know that Carlos hasn't had a big run in Australia, but he really should next year.
I wonder how he'll schedule the Australia thing this year. Like I was thinking about that. Like, should he play any exhibitions in December? Should he play a warm-up tournament ahead of the Australian Open? Like those are questions I have, certainly.
Doesn't feel like this year he lost due to a scheduling choice, no?
I don't think so either, but I wonder if he will want to mix it up.
It is somewhat dangerous not to play a warm-up, I think, especially if you get, like, let's say Taylor Fritz got Giovanni Pecci Pericard and Gabriel Diallo in the first 2 rounds, right? Whatever the equivalent of that is in Australia, you get that in the first 2 rounds. It is kind of dangerous.
And then I also
But yeah, I'd
wonder
go
what
Carlos
happens
mostly because the Australian Open is before the French. And I think on the women's side, the field is a lot more even. So that's why Iga is not an answer for me in this.
Interesting. Yeah.
She's going to be in the mix, she's just not among the two and only two contenders to win.
Yeah. I don't know. I might actually go with Iga. I might, but
I think statistically that just doesn't work out, If we assume that Carlos and Yannick are the two main favorites for every single slam from here on out until next year's Roland Garros, which for now, for our current state of knowledge, that's what it seems, then it does not work out statistically.
Yeah.
Unless you think that there's a seriously higher chance that Sinner is like, I don't know, 75% to win Australia again, and Carlos is 25, and then Roland Garros is the other way. Then, okay, I could understand it, but I don't think it's that lopsided.
Not necessarily, but then it's like these quarterfinal losses the last couple of years to Djokovic.
Yeah, but it could be Sinner then. The answer could be Sinner. I think both are viable.
Yeah.
Like, who is Sinner going to lose to at Roland Garros? Probably Carlos only. At least for now. That's what we know for now.
That's kind of the thing. I mean, and then I guess the question is just Novak. Is he going to end up being in Sinner's quarter the whole time or a half? Like, there will be slams where Alcaraz and Djokovic will be in the same half, and Djokovic would probably prefer that.
Yeah, and it's 6 months until Australia now. There's still the US Open, I know, but
yeah,
time is moving along pretty quickly when you're 38.
Yes, that's definitely true.
In sports, I mean.
And also
in
there's
life,
that injury thing.
not yet.
But so far we've seen that mostly flare up. I mean, we've seen it flare up at the end of like 6 of the last 7 majors. Djokovic has now gotten hurt in some way, shape, or form. So that's kind of been the big issue for him, is that he's approaching these matches on a half-empty tank, according to his words. So yeah, that only gets harder with age, definitely.
I think it was interesting that he said this about this tournament as well, that he didn't kind of think of this injury that he got as something random. He was just straight up pointing to, well, it just keeps happening. 4 or 5 matches, I play well, and then... And I thought this one might be the one that he's like, okay, yeah, I couldn't do much here because I was injured. Move on to the next one. And that would also be a very understandable position, but clearly not the one he took.
No, he was in fact talking about wanting to play again next year at Wimbledon. And he said, this is not going to be my last match on center court. And whereas the RG one, he was kind of more like, he took a moment.
Yeah.
He definitely thought, oh, I may not be back here again. So, no, I think, I don't know if that's just, he didn't want to take away any credit from Yannick, but anybody who watched that match could just see he was moving at like 60%, 70% max.
It was not a match, yeah. It was kind of like Świątek Anisimova, just for different reasons. Yeah. A procession. I mean, you watch this match and it's a procession. You see how Novak is moving, and even though he's up in the third set, you know that this is just very, very fragile. It can literally go away at any time, that lead, because you just can't move. And even if he wins that third set, it's just impossible for him to keep going. So it was also one of these matches where, yeah, you just start watching it and you know the outcome and you're just waiting for it to end.
Yeah. And I would say it's still been a very successful year for Carlos. 5 titles, 7 finals, 48-6 on the year. He's won. After, if we look at just basically after Miami, it's been really, really good. How many of those wins? He's not had many wins where he's looked great from like first ball to the last, where it's just been like, oh, clinical, efficient, business-like. But he's also got so much practice coming out of so many adverse situations and so many moments where he turned it around where you thought he wouldn't be able to. So I guess that should give him a lot of confidence coming in. But I do wonder how, in terms of scheduling, does he actually play Canada? Does he take some more time off? Does he just straight go into Cincinnati? He's also playing mixed doubles the week before the U.S. Open. So I think he's gonna have to how he'll approach the America Tour. I think will be interesting.
Yeah, I think on the previous episode I said that like if he wins Wimbledon, I think he should totally skip Canada. I guess with a final, I don't know what to think about it. He'll be the person to decide. The team, I mean, they know his body, his mind as well best. It's sort of like coming back to what we talked about with the documentary and everything. So I think we just literally cannot really make that decision for him. But it seemed to me like if he still had the win streak after Wimbledon and had just won 2 slams, then he really would have needed a long, long break. Right now, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. But I feel very encouraged just listening to him on the court, and also I listened to the press conference, listen to the way he's kind of thinking about this. Like he seems very clear in his mind in terms of putting this loss behind him, and I don't think he'll dwell on it for too long. Especially just given that he won RG, like you were saying, and just I think he'll be like the way you're looking at it, the way you were so desperate for him winning RG, and then this one you kind of just felt like okay, whatever. We'll
Definitely could be one of the ways to approach this.
Yeah, of course, he won't get the three-peat, so that's he'll kind of have to start over from that. So in terms of his grass legacy, I think people were very quick this year to be like, oh wow, he'll get like 7, 8, 9, 10 Wimbledon titles. So he'll be very close. But I guess this matchup is now difficult. 2 of his 4 losses on grass have come against Jannik, and yeah, and I guess maybe people underestimated how good Jannik was on grass too. I mean, his movement on grass is just awesome, and his I mean, I guess the loss to Medvedev last year, I think maybe clouded some things in people's mind. Like, I mean, say he doesn't get sick against Medvedev last year. Like,
I don't want to rant about this again, but yeah, I think we're done now with this whole stupid topic. As in, like the clay season starts. Well, okay, Yannick wasn't around for the beginning of the clay season, but Rome, Roland Garros, people are saying no, Yannick isn't going to win this because it's clay. Then Wimbledon comes around. No, Yannick isn't going to win this because it's grass. He can't play on grass. Just shut up.
I mean, yeah. So I guess that's what this title does. I mean, he's now won.
He's amazing anywhere, and that's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Really.
Like, you put him on anything right now, and he's just gonna be.
You can put both Sinner and Alcaraz on anything right now against anybody on tour, and they're gonna be better. It's just the way it is. Some surfaces the margins will be slimmer, some they will be bigger. But yeah, I mean they are far and ahead, regardless of the conditions.
Yeah, and I do think they will have wins in conditions that are not favorable for them too. Like I do think they're just so close enough in level that I could see Alcaraz winning against him on a fast indoor court. I could see Sinner beating him in Rome. Like it's not like a Djokovic Nadal thing, where I think like the surface really played such a big part in that rivalry.
Even a bigger example is Nadal Federer, right? Is it 14-2 on clay?
Yeah, so I don't see anything like one guy having a supreme dominance over the other on one surface.
No, it definitely should not happen to this extent.
It's going to be like the Djokovic Federer rivalry where the surface wasn't really as big of a thing. And it's just about who's better on the day, who's more clutch, who wins the bigger points, who's returning, who's serving better. Like, it will come down to small details that will decide the winners.
You'd think so, yeah. And they have a similar sort of like breakdown of personalities too, in some ways.
Yeah.
And the very efficient robotic guy against the
yes.
artist.
Against the artist, yes. And the style, yeah. I mean, sometimes I definitely watch Alcaraz on grass, and I think, wow, this is like watching Federer, but with a bazooka, basically.
It's not the same game, obviously, but there are some similarities in terms of how they approach the sport, for sure. And that's probably also why, I used to be a Federer fan, and now out of the top guys, Alcaraz is definitely my favorite as well.
Yeah. And so with that, I guess that about does it for episode 62. Funny enough, 62 was also Sinner's first serve percentage today, by the way. Yeah. I just realized that, yeah.
Wow.
Amazing,
what a realization.
Right? Okay.
How didn't I notice that? Oh my.
Yeah. But yeah, with that, on that bombshell, I guess I was about to say the drill, but this is not talking tennis.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That is a bombshell, though, so we can definitely end there.
yeah, I think that's a good place to end it. But we will be back with more episodes during the hardcore swing. We don't know yet when. I mean, I guess we'll take a break for a little while, and then I guess with the two Masters events, there are going to be 10 days this year, 10, 11 days each. So that is a change in the schedule and all that. And then I'm sure we'll talk about the U.S. Open. There'll be a lot still going on in August, but for now, hopefully you enjoyed episode 62. Hopefully you enjoyed our little video as well for the strawberry pasta. And hopefully,
I'm sure they did. I'm sure they did.
yeah, hopefully you guys will give us a follow on Twitter and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's where you can see our faces and kind of see our reactions, because that's always very fun. It makes me laugh every time. And then on the podcast, obviously iTunes, Apple, wherever, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, leave us a review rating. That always helps. And yeah, thank you again, Damien.
Thank you.